Is the senior executive in charge of Border Force in Tasmania and Victoria, in plain English, saying that the authority was going to carry out powers it actually doesn't have.
But let's look at the facts. There's been a lot of hysteria in relation to this issue, but let's look at the facts. The fact is that the Australian Border Force were asked to be part of this operation by the Victorian Police. The Victorian Police had the intention of interviewing a number of taxi drivers to see whether or not they had the appropriate licences, whether their vehicles were roadworthy, to have a look at their visas, if they were here on student visas, whether they had work rights, whether they had overstayed their visas. The people to whom this commander refers were going to be referred to them by the Victorian Police. So if the Victorian Police conducted their inquiries, they had a suspicion about a particular individual, they were going to refer that person to the ABF. It's a normal operation. And I think it's very important to point this out, Sabra. There have been 16,000 compliance operations since 2012.
OK, but this compliance operation was the first operation of its type with Victoria Police. On Friday, officials said that your office had not been involved with this, but a press release had been sent to your office twice.
Well, Sabra, again, to deal with the facts, there are 16,000...
Let's deal with that point.
Well, I'm coming to that point, but to put it into context, there are 16,000 compliance investigations over the last 3 or 4 years. There are 372 joint operations over the last 3 years. My office was advised for noting, not for clearance, not for advice, because we don't get involved in operational matters, but we were advised that this operation was going to take place. It was at a low level. The advisor in my office made a decision that this wasn't a high-profile operation, such as one that was conducted the week previous with the Australian Federal Police in relation to a cocaine import. They had made a decision that this was something that we should be advised about because we might get media inquiries. That was the extent of the involvement of my office.
How many documents go to your office that aren't read?
Well, there are hundreds of documents that come to my office each day, and they're read and they're prioritised. My advisor made a decision that this was, in terms of operational responsibility, the fact that a few Border Force officers were going to help the Victorian Police interview some cab drivers, that was deemed to be low priority, and appropriately so. Now, we've said that we will have a look at the way in which these media releases are cleared within the department, including coming up to my own office. I'm happy for all of that to be looked at, but for there to be some conspiracy theory running around that it's anything beyond that is a complete nonsense.
Would you accept these responses from a Labor minister in that chair?
I would say that a Labor minister would have presided over these exact same operations. Liberal and Labor ministers in this chair have presided over similar operations for a long period of time. I would be very surprised if an operation which involved a few staff helping out the Victorian Police interview some cab drivers was cleared by the Minister of the day. It's an absurd proposition, and I think it needs to be put into perspective.